Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You join me on a very lovely sunny day, however it is a little bit windy, so I hope that you can still hear me okay. I'm going to be speaking to you today about something which has recently just occurred to me. And that is the fact that in countries like the UK, the US, and many Western countries, a lot of what we see in the culture, in the way that people act and interact, indicates and proves that the majority of what goes on is just a big business, right? And to a degree, the UK, the US, and many other countries are now just a big business with the sole intention of maximizing their profits and productivity of citizens. Now, maybe that's a strong point to start a video off on, and maybe some people aren't going to like this one. Like I've said before, guys, my videos are just opinion related. If you don't like them, you don't have to watch them, and if you don't agree with me, that's also fine. At the same time, I'm sharing my personal understanding and what I've sort of realised over the last year or two. It's quite interesting because over the last year or two, and that's why I give the time period, this is when I've really started to look into and think about, on a more deep level, why we do what we do, and why the world, or our local environment at the very least, is structured in the way it is. I've combined this with a little bit of travelling, where I've gone to a lot of other countries as well. A lot of the countries that I've gone to have been significantly poorer, with significantly different cultures. Combining all of this information, I've been able to come back with a new approach and analyse the latest trends that we're seeing here in the UK and the US. A big thing that we're seeing is a major push towards money and a money culture. Here's the thing, money is an important thing to survive, everybody knows this, and without it, and without earning it, you're not really going to do very well in this world. However, once all of the basic needs are met, it's quite interesting what comes next, because most people are still told or inspired to push up to more assets and even liabilities. You know, it's not just enough to have a car, you have to have the car, or a certain car. And to some people, like me, I'm a car enthusiast, right? I want to have the car that I like. But most people are not car enthusiasts, they don't care. So why are they driving around in a brand new Mercedes or BMW? But they are. To a degree, the same goes with the housing situation, right? Yes, renting is expensive, and perhaps long term it does make more sense in today's market to get a mortgage. More on that in another video. But besides that, what does home ownership really mean, right? Designer clothes, what does it really mean? Not really very much. Yet people rush to buy it all. And this is where it gets quite interesting because, like I say, there's obviously like a hierarchy of needs. We all know this. Once all of your food needs, your basic financial needs are met, what comes next? Well, of course, people can't be content with that. And they strive towards this next level of, again, having luxury cars, luxury goods, which don't really fulfill their soul. At the same time, we are told, shown, and pushed to the fact that we need to have this. We need to have the latest iPhone, we need to have the latest car, we need to have a bigger house. Not everybody buys into it, but enough people do for it to become arguably problematic. And a lot of the people who do buy into it, they don't actually understand the consequences that it's going to have on their own life going forwards. I've spoken before about the car finance example, where we see people literally getting into car debt that they can't afford and that they simply don't need, all for the aim of showing off. They're not car enthusiasts, it doesn't matter. But this is what's perpetuated and this is what's pushed in today's modern society. And this ties all back into the big point. Perhaps it was a longer intro, but I wanted to give the context of the point that I'm talking about here, right? It's like we're living in one big business now, where the main aim of the game is to maximize profits and to increase consumerism. Having nice stuff is great, and we all know that, but there becomes a point of content, I believe at least, where for most people, there's not really much more to achieve or to strive to on a financial remit. Maybe I'm wrong, and I do agree that some people, to a degree myself, are motivated to have nicer things. We're all guilty of it to some extent. But now we're seeing this push in every sector where everything is becoming financialized, everything is becoming a way that big business can extract as much capital from you as possible, giving you the illusion of having wealth. I think the car finance one is a perfect example. Look at how much interest people pay. They pay over the odds on a car that they would not have otherwise bought. For a lot of these people, if you take away the meaning of the car, the fact it is seen as a flashy thing, would they buy it? Probably not, not really. And this is where it gets interesting, because the consequence of all of these loans, the consequence of buying all of this stuff is that it increases your cost of living at a time where the cost of living is arguably very high already, and I would agree with that point. Where this becomes problematic is it traps people in the cycle, it traps people in the business, it traps people in the work, consume, die. If you have nothing else to aim for, then it's very, very easy to become trapped in this cycle. And in the way that we live right now, we're told that there's not really anything else to aim for. We're told that this is the highest priority. And I guess when we talk about cost of living crisis, which is a thing, where we talk about the potential of house prices increasing indefinitely, and then combine that with all of the luxury goods that people want, it creates a situation where I think we get two different issues. Number one, people believe that they need to have significantly more money than they actually have, and people also believe that they need to have assets that they don't actually need. Combine all of this, and we get a situation where most people feel the need, the urge, to have this hustle culture, this non-stop work culture. And that can be beneficial, but most people aren't working for themselves. They're working for a big business, they're being another unit of productivity. That is absolutely fine. But you've got to ask why you do what you do, and who influences you to make these decisions. And that ties back into the point of everything being a big business in today's world. Everything is about value extraction, financial extraction, making as much money as possible. And this is where it gets interesting, because the materialistic goods, they're not what's going to make most people happy. But yet we're getting to a point now where this consumerist culture, this work culture that will inevitably have to come with it, because you have to pay things off in some way, is becoming the new normal for a lot of people. Again, I've said this many a time, but just have a look around on UK roads. Most of the cars, maybe not all, but a good percentage, at least 50%, I would say, in my city, maybe it's not the same in other places, but probably about 50%, maybe 40% of all of the cars are new. And I consider new to be between 7 and 0 years old, right? 0 and 7 years old is kind of new. My car's 30 years old for a bit of a comparison, so maybe I've just got a warped view of it. But no, I feel like that's just the way it is. Most of the cars are new, most people have the latest phone, they have designer goods. It's really becoming a bit of a cultural cycle now. And that is really what we're told to aspire to. In my generation as young people, and a lot of older people as well, it's all about how much money you've got, how much money you can stack, what you can have. And it's leading to what is essentially just one big business as a society, right? One big business. How can we make the most money? How can we take the most money? How can we lower our overheads? How can we increase the cost of living? You know, and all of these things can be done by financial mismanagement, by telling people that they need to have stuff that they essentially don't. It's just a reality of today's world, I think, guys. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Just a bit of an opinion-based video for today. I want to hear your thoughts. Thank you for your time.